All right, y'all. So the rap beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, it's kind of turned deadly. Or certainly at the very least, it's turned violent. So let me break it down for you. The other day, we heard that Drake's house in Toronto, there was a shooting outside of Drake's house in Toronto. And we come to find out afterwards that it was actually like a member of Drake's security team or like his bodyguard or something. There was like a drive-by type shooting, and they ended up getting him somewhere in the upper chest. He was in critical condition. He went to the hospital. My understanding now is that he's stable, but just a horrible situation. So then immediately everybody's brain kicks into gear. They're like, who done it, right? Who done it? So first, let me give you this. This is from CBC News. Police haven't commented further on the case at this point. However, a police source said early details from the initial call suggest the victim was a security guard at the home who appears to have been shot in a drive-by attack. He suffered a gunshot wound to the upper chest and was unconscious when officers arrived, according to the initial report. So Drake wasn't there, by the way. The victim was taken to the hospital via emergency run where he underwent surgery. Okay. So, look, we covered the beef. And by the way, I was talking about it just like everybody else was talking about it. I was enjoying it because it really brought out the best in both Kendrick Lamar and Drake, and we got some real club bangers out of it and everything. But one of the things I pointed out in my video, and most people who talked about this pointed out, is for the love of God, please don't let this end in violence, right? Please don't let this end in violence. And by the way, you know who looks like a fucking genius today? J. Cole. J. Cole dropped 7-minute drill, retracted it, then apologized. And somebody always went in his ear like, hey, man, this is serious between Drake and Kendrick, and you don't want to catch any strays here. And he was like, oh, all right, you know what? Bet. I don't have this in me. I don't want the smoke. I'm out. He looks like a fucking genius today, doesn't he? Taking the high road. That's... All right, so now let's get to the theories. Look, where did my mind first go to? Of course, my mind first went to, it's somebody who's a massive Kendrick stan. And, Kendrick was calling Drake a pedo. And somebody said, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And I'm going to go do a shooting. That's where my mind first went. But let's listen to a bunch of the theories that are floating around out there. Some of them have some evidence to back them up. Some of them don't. I'm going to go to one of my favorite React channels. Like I pointed out the other day, Anthony Fantano is great. Screwface Gene is great. And No Life Shaq is great. So we're going to listen to some of what he has to say. Then I'll give you my breakdown.
When I started the vid, I said it's starting to get weird. Not only was I talking about the Drake shooting, Drake, one of his OVO shops in London, got vandalized, and they wrote on the window with some spray paint, they not like us.
So that one's unavoidable. That's somebody who's massively pro Kendrick and was like, I'm going to fuck up Drake's OVO store. Okay, so we got that.
So those was Kendrick fans doing that. Not saying Kendrick told them to do that. That was Kendrick fans doing that. The shooting at Drake crib, that had nothing to do with Kendrick. I see people starting to trying to put that out there. That had nothing to do with Kendrick, bro.
Look, I don't think we know, right? I don't think we know. You're going to hear the other theories in a second. One of the things he doesn't bring up, which I'm surprised he doesn't bring up because I saw this floating around Twitter. I don't know if it's a rumor. I don't know if there's evidence to back it up. But one of the things they say is the Weeknd's manager. The Weeknd is involved in this Drake beef. You know how Drake says it's a 20v1? Well, one of the 20 he's up against is the Weeknd. Apparently, there was a shooting at the Weeknd's manager's house like a week ago, and one of his security guards got hit, right? And so now, here we are, not too long after it, and one of Drake's security guards get hit. So then you can start going, is the Weeknd involved? Or the Weeknd's manager involved? Right? And in that instance, it wouldn't be on Kendrick or, any of his fans or whatever. But look, we don't know. We don't know. It could absolutely be some Kendrick stan who's like, I'm going to go kill a pedophile, right? I'm going to go shoot at him. I'm going to go scare him, something. That absolutely is possible. We don't know. But that's certainly in the realm of conversation. All right, let's keep going.
Kendrick too smart to do something like that. Come on, man. But look, this is the part I want y'all to pay attention to. Now, it has came out that this right here wasn't true, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for 1 second. This one randomly come out. Y'all got to look at the timing of everything. This is what I've been thinking about over the past 24 hours. First, I see this document right here. It popped up on the internet out of nowhere. They came out and denied it, but this not gonna randomly pop up like this. It got too many. It's too certain, bro. It's too detailed. All right, look at this. It's an insider that's waiting on proof of documentation said all this. All right, basically Kendrick and The Weeknd, they people or them, they was asked by UMG, the label, to end the beef with Drake. They say Kendrick not budging, bro. He not budging. He ain't going for it. But if you keep reading, they say they got on a Zoom call with all parties involved and said they need Kendrick to make a public apology to Drake. Keep reading. Then they go down and say they need Kendrick to publicly apologize to Drake, whether it's directly or through his company, because y'all know all the pedo allegations Drake been facing. Fans been finding his other kids. Girls been coming out saying all type of stuff. Even Metro going through it right now. But they say
they dug up a bunch of sussy tweets from Metro Boomin from when he was younger as well. It's all this stuff is coming out.
They need Kendrick to do this publicly because of all the companies that's backing Drake. Nike, for example. Drake just did that huge deal with UMG. They losing money, bro. They losing money. And y'all know money is the root of all evil. Now, I want y'all to understand where I'm getting with this. All right, boom, this document right here pop up out of nowhere, right? Right after this document pop out. And notice y'all say Kendrick not budging. So Kendrick ain't with it. Then I heard another diss track poster had dropped yesterday, but the shooting at Drake crib pushed it back.
Oh,
I don't know.
Damn.
Who the track was from, but another diss track supposed to have dropped yesterday. Now, pay attention. I need y'all to pay attention. The shooting happened at Drake crib right after this document. The document say Kendrick won't budge. So me putting two...
Now, by the way, TMZ came out and said that this is completely fake news. And TMZ usually is the first one to have leaks like this. They're the first ones that could give you such insider tea. And so for them to come out and say, this is fake news, this didn't happen, I mean, Shaq is brushing it aside here. I'm not as willing to brush it aside and say that they're definitely wrong. I mean, maybe there was some attempt to have some line of communication to kill the beef, but the idea of like an apology, I don't think anybody's dumb enough to ask Kendrick for an apology. Even the suits, even the management types, I don't think they're dumb enough to, well, really? Does it look like he's in the mood to fucking apologize? So I'm not as skeptical as Shaq is that this is real. I'm sort of 50-50, or if anything, I lean more with TMZ that this is fake news. It's easy to come up with some fake news in the midst of a situation like this. But let's keep going, because he's hinting at his theory as to what went down here.
I think it was Kendrick finna drop another track. But the shooting, obviously Kendrick ain't got nothing to do with the shooting, right? Y'all see where I'm getting with this, right? It's getting real weird behind the scenes. It's getting real weird. I'm thinking somebody set that up. It's either two things. It's either two things that happen, bro. And like I said, all this is speculation, but I'm just trying to put all the facts together to come up with a conclusion. All right, Kendrick ain't budget. Another diss track supposed to have dropped. Nobody knows from who. I'm thinking it was Kendrick, but the shooting happened at Drake crib to take everybody's attention off of all the allegations, off of the diss track that supposed to drop. The timing is too perfect. Remind you, the shooting happened after everything stopped. The diss track stopped for a day or two. Then the shooting happened. Companies are losing big money because no company is going to want to support a pedo, right? They told Kendrick to apologize. Yo, it's getting too crazy.
All right. So basically, you could tell what he's hinting at there is like, it's an inside job. Like Drake or somebody on his team did a shooting at Drake's house to try to like basically flip the narrative and the dialogue right now, because everybody and their mother is saying Kendrick won, right? And he's really doing a number to Drake and his legacy and his future profitability and all that stuff. So he's saying it's probably Team Drake that did like an inside job, sort of fake like shooting. What's my take on it? Here's the thing. If they were going to do that, right, which is in the realm of possibility, but if they were going to do that, they wouldn't have actually shot the bodyguard. They wouldn't have shot the bodyguard, and he wouldn't have been in critical condition, and he wouldn't have needed surgery, right? Because in theory, you could accomplish the same sort of thing by having a drive-by type shooting, but just not hitting the bodyguard. It would have been enough of a story to drive that narrative home if you just got all the news stories saying there was an attempted drive-by shooting at Drake's house and a bodyguard was barely missed, right? They barely missed the Bodyguard. Because then you would have had the same effect without somebody getting really hurt and maybe dying and needing surgery, right? So I'm skeptical of that, man. I'm skeptical of that. Look, I think the most likely scenario, Occam's razor, the most simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Occam's razor is either, if that story about the Weeknd's manager is true, that he was just shot at and people think it's people on Drake's side or whatever, and then they basically do the same thing back to Drake's people. It's either that, if that story's true about the Weeknd's manager, right? That would be Occam's razor. Or if the details of that are not true, then I do think Occam's razor is, look, there were just a whole bunch of diss songs that dropped that all called Drake a pedophile. You're telling me there's nobody out there who's following this stuff closely, who's a little unbalanced, who believes in vigilante justice and wants to go make a statement and shoot up Drake's house? I think that's more likely, right? I think that's more likely. Somebody who's just really deeply invested in this beef and following everything, and they fucking hate Drake and they love Kendrick, and they're, Kendrick's out there basically saying in one of the tracks, writes a letter to Drake's mom saying your son should die, right? And somebody could take that and be like, hey, I'm going to go try to make something like this happen. I'm going to make a statement. So I think that's more likely, or it has something to do with the Weeknd's manager, right? I don't think it's, if nobody got hit, then I think you'd have a much better case that this was like a Drake inside job to flip the narrative. And also, again, I'm not as convinced as Shaq is that this original thing that was floating around Twitter was true. It's too easy to do fake news. And if TMZ's saying that's not true, they have no incentive to lie about that. They'd be the first ones to run a story like this, right? So, anyway, either way, man, look, it was all fun and games. It was all interesting. We were all hanging on every word. We were all enjoying it. A bunch of energy and momentum and attention was focused on this. But the second it turns to violence, this shit is not fun anymore, bro. It's not fun anymore. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And even if you say, hey, man, we're dealing with somebody here who's... Drake says Kendrick is a wife beater and Kendrick says Drake is a pedo. It's like, okay, let's have the investigations and let's work it out. And if somebody's got to be behind bars, put them behind bars. But let's do it the right way. Let's not do vigilante justice and have shit like this happening. So, yeah, it was all fun and games until now it's no longer fun and games. It's no longer fun and games. And, I don't know. It's crazy to see that it can even get to violence, right? That's why, again, I'm going to make the final point. Reiterating one from earlier, but J. Cole and all his fans right now look fucking phenomenal. They look phenomenal. Because obviously J. Cole's in this for hip-hop, in this for rap. And once he was told this is deeper than hip-hop, get the fuck out of the way, he was like, all right, bet. And so, I don't know, going to be a lot more J. Cole fans at the end of this. I'll tell you that much. This is wild. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.